This is going to be an assembly tutorial on using our FS1 blank. It's going to be this little folder, 440C stainless steel. I've already glued on one side of my handle before I started filming, but I'll show you on the other side how fitment works. And I've had some people ask about these pinholes. The holes that I use are this back hole and the front hole. I don't use the middle hole myself. I've had a lot of people say the pins are bigger than the hole. Well, yes, they are. The pins that I send you are bigger than the hole, and there's reason for that. First thing we're going to do is I have a 3/32 cobalt drill bit, and I'm going to drill these holes. The two holes that I'm using, I'm going to drill through them, and it's going to drill through my handle material on the other side. And this is going to help with pin location for later. And those of you also are asking, what do I do about this where the blade rests in between? I'll show you that later on in this video as well. So I'm going to drill these out. I didn't have a way to hold my camera while drilling, so went ahead, I've drilled those out now. And you can see daylight through there. You can see the holes on the other side. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna glue my other side of my handle on. And I'm using epoxy, 2-part epoxy to glue the handles in place. You'll see now the pin material, I should have showed, let me show in this middle and then it won't go through there. It's too big for that hole. You'll see now the pin material will fit better. It's still a tight fit, but it does stick in the hole because I've drilled out the hole with the 3/32 bit. Another thing I do before gluing everything in place is I like to sand these. I cut the pin in two and I sand it into a point, kind of a rounded point, so that it makes it easier when I'm placing it through. It helps line things up and helps it get started easier when I go to hammer those through. Those will be hammered through because they're supposed to be a tight fit because it's a mechanical lock. And then once you get to the step where you're cutting out for the blade, you really need to make sure you've peened it into that liner good. And it is a thin liner, so you need a snug fit. That's why I send pins bigger than the holes to start with. The next thing you'll do is fit your other scale and to grind it to fit, and you'll get it seated in there. Whenever you get the fit you're happy with, your gaps are gone, you need them as gone as possible. You take your time sanding, get that in there just right. You'll go ahead and glue this side on. Still, there's no pins in place. Take your 2-part epoxy, mix it up really good, put it all over this flat area here. Be careful about getting it on the mechanism, and then glue that down. Next thing we'll do is drill the hole. All right, so I've let these set up. When I glue it, when I put my 2-part epoxy, I always clamp it down good until there are no gaps anywhere. And I let that cure overnight usually, because I use a slow set 2-part epoxy. There's faster ones, but the slower set you use, the better it's gonna hold. So I'll go ahead and I'm gonna unclamp these, and then I'll drill back the other way through the holes we drilled the first time. So here it is with the clamps pulled off. There's the holes from the first time we drilled through. There's the gap still. We're gonna drill back through the holes and get these drilled out on this side. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start the drill press, and then I'll film again. All right, now that's drilled through. Holes on both sides. I'm working with mammoth molars, so you gotta be very careful. It chips out a lot. Very fragile. Depending on what you are using, make sure you're doing the right speeds and feeds on your drill. So be careful about chip outs. Now, next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my brass pins and I'm going to epoxy those in place. Make sure you keep the blade open during this part, all the way through this, So I'll epoxy those pins in place through those holes. And then I will actually probably grind some of this down, some of that down all the way first. And then I'll show you how to clear that pocket of the pin so that your blade can close. All right, so this is a good time to, I went ahead and I grinded down this, not smooth, just roughly. And the reason for that is so that my Dremel can reach down in there. It's hard to reach when you got a whole block of material here, but when you cut it down, it's a whole lot easier to reach the pins with your Dremel. But anyway, this is a good point to make sure that your mechanism works and that you haven't got any glue on it. I went ahead and popped that because I'm doing this one-handed while filming. So my mechanism is working and is in position. So that's a good time to test that. So I'll open that back up and then we'll get our pins in place. All right, so I'm gonna take my epoxy. I'm gonna coat the outsides of these pins all the way around the edges. And then I'm going to hammer it through with a ball peen hammer very gently so that I don't fracture my material. And let me do that. I'm one-handed, so I'm going to do it off camera. I'm just taking that glue, I'm putting it all over these pins, and I'm going to take that hammer and I'm going to peck those pins all the way through. So let me do that real quick. Okay, here we are. The pins are all the way through. You can see the pins are all the way through where the blade goes. Now I'm going to let this epoxy set up, and then I'll come back and I will grind off. Actually, no. I'm going to peen these. I'm going to get a hard metal surface. I'm going to put that pin on the bottom side down against the hard metal surface. I'm going to shorten that first. Down on the hard metal surface, and then I'm going to tap that top side of the pin with the ball peen hammer. That's going to peen it. That's going to make that mushroom out, that brass swell a little bit and get some more bite into that material. Then I'm going to come back with a Dremel and cut out that inside. All right, so now I've got those pins peened in. You can see there all the way through there. They're still in where my knife blade goes. Got some glue on that one, which will be all right. I'm gonna Dremel that out. So you're gonna want one of the bigger Dremel cutting wheels. You're gonna want one of the bigger reinforced ones. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna need eye protection. And you'll take that Dremel, you'll go in between there, and you'll cut out those pins. It's going to be a very careful step. Make sure you're wearing eye protection. I'll go ahead and get mine cut out, and I'll show you what it looks like. Be careful not to hit your handle or your brass liners. It's a very tedious step. Honestly, it takes some practice, but you will get the hang of it the more you do it. Just get that in there and cut it. Secure your knife tight. I use my hand. You can use a vise, it'd be safer. Blade has to stay open, so tape that off. Make sure you don't cut yourself. And then cut those two pins out on this side, and then come in from the other side and cut them on the other side. All right, I'm gonna do that now. Make sure it's completely cut out. All right. With those pins completely cut out, you're gonna need to get a Q-tip and some, I use rubbing alcohol most of the time, and clean that pocket out. There's gonna be some gunk and some grease in there. You don't wanna make sure you clean that out, but clean that after you finished working on your knife, because you're gonna have a lot more sanding dust as you finish your handles and polish your blades and polish your bolsters, and then get all that cleaned out at the end. So I'll go ahead and keep showing this. My knife will now close, and you can see my handles are secure. They're not coming off. Those are peened in, they're glued in, they're holding tight to that liner. I've also made sure to completely cover the back of my handle material with epoxy, so it's held on very, very, very good. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to finish sanding my handle material and my bolsters to good smooth polish. Definitely won't be using that 60 grit. I use a Vever 2x72. I've used Vader before and I've used Fear before. I really like, for the price, I think it's $1,200, this Vever 2x72. You can use a 1x30 from Harbor Freight. Works well for starting out. But this is what I use. And it's what I'm going to use to finish my handles. But I'll show you after I get my handles all sanded up what I'll do next. Okay, so I have sanded to 320 grit. That's probably where I'm going to stop on this particular knife. And see, that's rough still on the brass, but the handle material is pretty smooth. That pocket's still cleaned out, or still needs cleaned out. And I've got to polish my blade. It's got a little dirty from the making process. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go right here to this polisher that I got from Harbor Freight. It's a Bauer. It is a 8-inch stationary buffer, and I run a black compound to clean up my brass. You can get the black compound at Harbor Freight as well. And so I have cut myself pretty bad doing this, and this is one of the most dangerous things you can do. There's a scar. Be very careful on this. Tape your blade when you're not polishing the blade. Don't ever let it grab. If it ever grabs an edge, a hard corner like that, it's gonna throw that knife, and it's gonna throw it hard. If it grabs there, it can throw it. If it grabs the tip, it can throw it anywhere that it catches. So when I'm polishing the blade, I hold it with both hands, and I just very carefully go right through there and make sure not to hit that tip. Or I'll very carefully get the bottom edge or the top edge. But keep in mind, when polishing a blade, you are going to have to go back and resharpen, because it's going to take off your fine edge. No matter where you put it, it's going to eat that edge. So a lot of times, if I don't have to, I don't polish the blade. But in this case, I'm going to have to, because I got it dirty. Brass will get very hot. Same thing, try not to catch an edge. Try to hit the bottom end and then flip it over and then hit the top end and just work your way around the knife like that. Just hold very tightly. If you can get a variable speed polisher, one that you can run slow, I recommend doing that to start, because I have hurt myself very bad on this. And a lot of people have, a lot of knife makers do, and getting cut's part of it. But just be careful. Do not wear gloves with this particular machine unless some expert somewhere better than me tells you should. In my experience, a glove can get caught and snagged and pull your hand into the machine. It can wrap your fingers of the gloves around that. You can wrap it around that. Gloves are just more dangerous than they were with this particular machine. All right, so I'm gonna polish my knife up, and then I'll show you how it finishes out. All right, and here's that blade blank polished up. Gonna be a lot of reflections on the camera. It's all polished. Now all I've got left to do is, I always wipe them down with a tub of towels. I think you get it at Walmart. I wipe every knife down with a tub of towels after I polish. It gets some of that extra gunk off. And then I will clean that inside out, and it'll be done. All right, so that's the completed blade blank. The Lockback folder blade blank. And that's how you do this model. Thank everyone for watching, and I thank everyone for supporting our little business. And we're going to do more tutorials as we go. We'll maybe do more in-depth, more video of using tools, reviews on tools, things like that. So I hope this helps you guys learn how to do these folders. and I appreciate you.